Yo, it's your favorite N-word again, Terrence Prescott, born as, alright? And welcome to Your Doom, alright? If you know what I'm talking about, this Brisket Dingo. And I'm about to be on some bull. So, it took me a while to get this video ready because there's so many characters in the story and things, but I want to talk about the placements, some of the reasons of making up the characters, origins and whatnot, and talk about which characters know each other, which characters do heroism together, which characters are lovers and things like that. And it's pertinent information for the character development that will happen during this epilogue. And let's start with the rules of heroism in this universe. So it's year 8124 or something, high future, and the worlds, there are a lot of cyberpunkish, futuristic, fantasy star type places, especially in the space colonies. But even the space colonies have normal, rural, suburban type cities and environments, and on the planets they have like full landscapes of unmanned territory that they want to keep for the sake of keeping the planet beautiful and things like that. So all of it is very beautiful and is protected by the rules of heroism. And the rules of heroism are: 1. Protect the innocent first. 2. Kill the greedy second. 3. Handle the disorderly third. 4th. Speak the truth. 5. Honor thy society. 6. Mind the battlefield. 7. Superheroes are the world leaders. Alright. So, with that being said, the order and state of humanity in this world is very peaceful, very together, alright? And the utopia of it is that racism doesn't exist anymore. Societies have this kill for the peace mentality in all facets, blips of societies around the 13 galaxies. And it's kind of tricky making a world of a utopia, because what are the villains' reasons for choosing villainy, right? And there are some injustices in the world that revolve around things like people getting lost in space, black hole things, or something else happening, and the debris of a spaceship blowing up gets picked up by the debris mobiles around the universes, and there's a lot of them. So in the real world, one of the main issues in outer space is all of the debris, and by the time in year 8124 they have developed so many machines to go across the empty spaces of the universe and suck up the debris out there. Magnetism, using all kind of superpower technology, know-how, and things like that. So traveling through outer space is very easy. They still have asteroid fields, and in my imagination land they have seas of lava and seas of water in outer space that are somehow an anomaly of outer space, and it's like, let me see, like an example of 250 square feet of a body of water, miles, that is 250,000 miles by square of water, literal H2O sitting in outer space, and it's not frozen, it's all liquid, and there's a whole world of sea creatures living inside of it, things like that. And the space colonies are very big. Like they have them so big they're the size of the moon, and they have in all of the galaxies, the 13 galaxies, they have. If the planet of mankind don't have a moon, they'll build a space colony around that planet, the manned planet that can host human life. And that planet they have a moon, and then they have the 6 around the galaxies. And the galaxies are, there's 13 of them, and they all have specific names for what they are in the map and things like that. But the rules of heroism state that the superheroes protect all of that. They generally are the ones that are speaking what needs to change in the world, and most humans go by they abide by it. But then you have those blips of humanity that being wanted to be tyrannical, and they'll go take over a space colony and things like that. So they have to deal with that every now and then. In the galactic forces, they know that greedy people need to be killed, and there's no justice system for them. So if anybody is found with any kind of evidence or suspicion of greed, bounty hunters will be summoned, and the bounty board is very busy, and the bounty hunters will go kill whoever's suspicious of being greedy, evaluate everything about them, get more information on anybody else that they've dealt with, and move along and keep the world from going into a state of something like Donald Trump. So the protections in order of that are those 7 rules of heroism, and there's some more explanations with that. But moving along to the ethnicity reasons. When I was first doing the Crimson Collective, all of the characters were based off of my favorite people that I've met, and there's a lot of white people. No offense, but I already have characters based off of majority of the black people that I've met. So at this time of making this story, it was more of the gay community and things like that. So most of the people that I met through the Charlotte Royals and things like that, and I have a lot of different versions of characters of my families in the story, and me, like there's 18 versions of me throughout my 30 stories. And I was just making up characters based off of my favorite people at the time. And then when a couple of people was telling me that the idea is solid and I should, work on it more, that's when I put on the Tri-Stone Arrowhead, included all of the inclusivity, making sure I go over each realm of ethnicity, each range, and I have 5 ranges. I say black, Asian, Latino, Indian, and white. So I know that Indians are Asian, but in my world, when I do the ethnicity ranges, the Indians would be from the Middle East to India. That's what I mean when I say Indian and talking about ethnicities and things like that. And ranges from Moroccan, Egyptian, Afghani, Iraqi, Turkish, Indian, and some others. But the next few slides will show all of the heroes, at least, which spectrum of ethnicity they fit into. So in some of the slides, you'll have somebody sitting over to the right, and that person sitting over to the right is the one person out of all of the chosen faces that I know personally. Some of them have a little bit more order than others. but I try to include as much ethnicity as possible. And moving right along to the groupings. So this first image, it'll be of the Dimensional Descendants, and it would take me a while to look it up in a file because then I would have to move things around and move them back to get back to the video, so I'm not gonna go too deep into that. But in this grouping, the two on the left came from the same dimension, but then I made changes. Okay, the two on the left come from the same dimension. Neoteri comes from one dimension and the other ones are from different ones. I forgot what I did when I did this, but these are all the Dimensional Descendants, which mean that they grew up in different places like Leo Yellow and the Luigi dimension, if I could talk right. And there's some characters in the story too that come from different dimensions, and they're like not important characters, but they're important to a specific character's history. Like Nexon, he has these sirens on his spaceship, and they are protected citizens. They are immortal, and they come from one of the dimensions that was nuked, like in that one movie about those Zords fighting in the ocean, about them creatures coming from a different dimension, and then they bomb the dimension, and then one dude went in there and sacrificed himself and all that stuff. They do big ass nukes like that in dimensions and throw out the whole thing. And some of the galaxies don't have dimensions, but the dimensions are specifically related to a specific galaxy. Like the shape of a galaxy, the dimensions and physics of that galaxy creates a dimension, and humans will either figure it out or they will discover that there is no dimension. And then you have all of the famous people who are singers, songwriters, rappers, vocalists, opera people, indie musicians, things like that. Scotty Rebel and Tokyo Diva are the rich white ladies, and if you know me, I'll always be listening to them. The ones on the upper right, they're either foreign diplomats, or let me see, foreign diplomats, people that offer sanctuary, or people that own like Fortune 500 companies. The ones on the bottom right are artists. Prometheus is like a model. The Rage, maybe? No, I can't remember the Rage at the moment, but Teodra Morris is an art appraiser, and he transports art across the galaxies. Very important art, and he's recognized in the art world a whole lot. He's pretty much an A-list celebrity in the art world. And Dracos owns a barber and a salon. Very famous on this planet. Zeophany is a tattoo artist. Bumper is a car designer in Edgemere. And Seven is a blacksmith in Edgemere. The ones on the bottom left, they are all famous for the Magic Moving Picture Square. Some movie stars, television stars, reality stars, and things like that. And I think Quality is the only one that's like a national deemed host. She do pageants and all other kind of stuff, and going on different type of game shows and things like that. The ones in the middle on the top row are athletes or involved with sports. Like Millions is a tennis star, Dozer is an NFL coach, Omega is a spaceship racer, Yikesville is the paparazzo for the villains, Oma Lagrosso is a newscaster, and Evertrust is like this soccer coach. Moving to the next one, all of the gods and goddesses. So I love this grouping. I didn't want to make too many guys and goddesses because my guys and goddesses, they have access to the reality control panel and the existence control panel. Both are completely different, but when guys do what they do, they learn everything in their own speed. So when they summon either of the control boards, it's like a debug menu in a video game, and you can do everything generally in a video game. And then the existence one is doing everything literally. So the existence one is more of a changing something immediately, like what happened in The Magicians when Julia was told about her powers and she raised that entire forest. There's something that existence would do. Reality is something like right there without altering too much, just dealing with the sentient beings in the situation and the energy of the situation. So the control panels are different, but the only ones that really abuse their godness are Rego Racilios, Masterpiece, Avosia, Zova Sly, and that's it. Those are some of the eldest guides and goddesses. The other characters are younger and they know the 35 generation and under of the real world. Edgemere is considered the fantasy world, and they don't have any qualms with humanity when they were discovered and things like that. So Edgemere has always been peaceful, even though it took plenty of millennia for the human super beings to be as powerful as God. So, you know, human evolution and things like that, superpower world and whatnot, and gods can be killed by humans, the super beings. But that's a lovely conundrum I like to work on. But the way that they're placed, all of the girls are in the center, and not all of them live in Edgemere. Generally, in its entire grouping, I know that Splash, Roughhead, Proof, they are princes. And Galtos. And Crave, I believe. Zooms is like Link from The Legend of Zelda in his universe. And his arch nemesis is Fiffany Lozo, and you'll see her later. But I love the god and goddesses as characters, especially Avosia in Z-Files. But then again, I love them all because Rego Racilios is a piece of work, but you know, he don't want the humans to die. He can just, you know, go to Edgemere, close it off, and the alien invasion won't even touch Edgemere. But, you know, he got some favorite people in the first peak, and when he catches wind of it, he's gonna join the forces like Avosia and Masterpiece. But you'll find out about that later. So the next group, all lifesavers as a profession. So these are the Purge members, law enforcement, doctors, time cops, anybody that's on the side of justice, the people that lead crusades like Crunch. He is the leader of the Wishaniggawood Pirates. Clear Soldier owns a battalion of very powerful super beings that go around doing some of the most radioactive work possible in the universe. They going into full-on solar storms and doing all kinds of crazy stuff that would normally make them lost in space because they would be killed by it, but they're so powerful that they can just go through anything. Like some of the characters have anti-black hole magic and technology and ceremonies and all kinds of things. Like Teodra Morris, he got kidnapped as a kid because he was a very strong macho child, and he went to the Junior Olympics, and the people that kidnapped him just happened to be there, which is this group of pirates of women that act like Amazons, and they want to emasculate men at a young age, so they kidnap little boys, make them into slaves and things like that, then send them back home around the time they hit puberty. Very fucked up times. So Theodore Morris got kidnapped by them, and it was because of vacuum technology, and he wanted something to keep him from being sucked into anything ever again, because that was the most torturous 2.5 years of his life. And he didn't want to be forced to go through trans surgery, because the Amazonian women did do that to some of the boys who didn't comply to being a slave to him. And it's a very fucked up history for a character, but it made Theodore Morris able to focus on art and want to protect art, and how art is like, it may come from traumatic places, it may come from good places, loving places, but it's still an innocent capture of essence. And he views transporting art across the galaxies as a means of protecting innocence, and that innocence will be timeless, because art is one of the commodities of the universe that's always protected now in year 8124 or whatever. But it's a lot of things. Chaotris runs a dynasty. Zova Sly is a pirate queen. Zoludo is a very great operative for this laboratory, and so is Emetiora. Loon Agus and Sin Rays are in this group of bounty hunters. They are 1 and 2. Boston and Viker work for this Allcroft group, and they act like, I guess, a white arm of government operatives and whatnot. Metronome and Tomorrow are time cops. Captain Fades has a fleet of military people on a big ass battleship. I think Sir Sworn does as well. Archerios is the president of one of the space colonies that's on the front line, because I think it's Galaxy 12 that gets approached by the alien invasion first, and he's going to stay on the front lines until he get the postal piece around his neck. Dilizzle, Scoros, and the Worst are all prominent doctors. They are also professors at the Coconut Institute, and they are superheroes with these big ass ships, and they go around saving people all the time around the universe when they're not teaching at college or performing surgery or being a physician that they are. La Slushy is a veterinarian. Gekis Naja is a plastic surgeon. Quantum is something. Dizzy may not supposed to be the no, Dizzy is a child psychologist. Momentium is a relationship therapist, and the 5 members of Purge that are main characters in the story are the top left. Crisis to Allura. Sovereigns. Real World Edgemere. I didn't make any important characters in the dimensions, but Zoludo and Emetiora are on a mission to do a colonization mission of a dimension that was just discovered. But these are all the kings, queens, princes, and princesses of the story. Sasol is the king of Egypt. Echoes is the king of Brazil. Prayed Up is an Edgemere, being a prince somewhere, so it's proof. Zermuda is the prince of a planet, and I made some changes, so I need to add Maverick to this image because he's the prince of one of the planets as well. Handsome X is a king. Masterpiece is a queen. Power Depot. I need to add Archerios to this image too. Oh, gotta do that before I post this video. All the summoners, which mean people with spellbinding superpowers, are summoned as a superpower. also going into the category of afterlife, because they the people that control specters, ghosts, poltergeists, and things like that, and they can summon them from any universe at any given time. Anyone that they think of, or anyone that listens to their summon. Crave and Drama are both afterlife wielders. Giganto and Cataclysm are monster wielders, and they can summon any type of monster at any given time and turn into any kind of monster. Ativo is a Tetra wielder, and so is Masterpiece, and Tetra being the superpower that you're born with 4 different superpowers, and it's specific to just that DNA, so it could be basic as fire, earth, water, and wind, or it could be 4 different superpowers that aren't related to each other. And sometimes some people will be born with like a combination of superpowers that are beneficial and easy to work with, or you'll have somebody who will be so different it's hard for them to function as a super being, and you know, they have to deal with all of the psychosis and thoughts of not being good enough and having to work twice as hard to be as powerful as everybody else, figuring out how their powers go together and all of this other stuff. And sometimes that's the thing about life. You are dealt with cards that you didn't choose and things like that. And some people get like one of the villains, like Archie, she was doing a lot when she was a teenager, and she evolved her superpowers as a teenager, and it went from life to death to hell versus heaven, and she still retained her Hydra superpower and things like that. Sometimes that can happen, but it depends on what the youth does with their power training, and it something that has to happen in youth, because super beings, their power don't unlock completely until they hit puberty. Some of them can access their superpowers as kids, but it's not ever in full capacity. So it's not like they can, like a fire wielder can make like a flame. A fire wielder cannot make a whole fireball as a kid. They can make a single flame and make it like probably this big, like how my head is right now, and that's it. They can throw the flame, but they cannot make no fireball or any other kind of projectile that would be more detrimental than a flame. But everybody else up at the top are all spellbinders, magic, hexing, or sorcery. Beautiful characters. So the situation with Janique is, she's a mage, genie type mage, and because she's one of the Middle Eastern characters, keeping some of the things with certain ethnicities, bringing in some heritage and whatnot. But her shtick is being like a survivalist in outer space, and she know how to bring any spaceship back to life. She has enough magic by herself as a walking totem to pull magic anywhere in the universe, like everybody else in its image that have spellbinding as a superpower, because they've trained so hard that their coven or their link to magic becomes their own, and they become their own beacon in the universe. Like in Draco's, when he was born, he was the only kid born that year in his coven, and it branched off into another tree of life on their family map thing of all of the covens, all of the families in the covens. So he made his own tree of life. So that coven has like 4 tree of lives at the time in the story, and other kind of anomalies with different kind of things. Imagination is also up here too, because Dalizo is an imagination wielder, and that's like spell binding, but imagination is more of what you think will happen. But the more you train a specific superpower in your head, the more powerful it gets. So these are all the lovers in the story, okay? And it may not be important to you now, but for future purposes, you'll be able to understand a lot of things in the story. So there are no lesbian relations in the story. Which is odd. But then again, oh wait, Zeophony, okay. I can do something with it later. I'm just mumbling at the moment. But Boston and Viker from the Allcroft group, Roughhead, Echoes, and Sir Sworn are the only triad in the story, and they started when they were like 13, so they've been in a relationship pretty much their entire lives. But Zero Skies and Big and Bright, great couple. Cuerva and Silver are gonna be a great couple. So is Dozer and Treasures. Jacksonville and Zedrickas, they grew up together in an orphanage because their parents were lost in space, and so I got this very wonderful thing in the story. And as you know, I'm not versus the one that can teleport up to 100 million miles at a time, and he's the transport specialist of Purge. So he be taking people everywhere and whatnot. And there's this program of called Make-A-Wish that's different from what's happening in this world. And kids who have a certain passion, like they listen to all of the kids and whatnot, but psychiatrists know that if a kid wants a certain life, like going 1, 2, and 3rd grade, they have like this undying need to be raised in wooded areas, places with shores, on a space colony with pirates or whatever, and they'll make their kids' wish come true. And you know, the parents are real easy. They didn't already live their lives, and they've had all of the highs they possibly could have, and the next high for them to have is a kid and raise the kid with all the love and possibilities that that the parents grew up with and stuff like that. So Jacksonville and Zedrickas were in the Make-A-Wish thing, and they just wanted to be like real powerful and strong so they don't get lost in space like their parents and whatnot. So Jacksonville and Zedrickas always had the warriorhood gene in them, and they went with it at a very early age. So they got picked up by this group, and it was lovely. A group of all men that were famous for doing a lot of heroic deeds around the galaxies, and that's what they wanted to do. So they got lucky, and Purge took them to the group. Well, no, they were at the orphanage, and the group came to the orphanage, and they just started following the dudes and sneaking off with the dudes while they were still there for the allotted time they were on the mission that they were. And they just stopped at the orphanage and showed the kids that there's another way of life, because you know, all of the information in the internet, and everybody has information at their fingertips and things like that. So they saw the heroes for the first time, went with them, and they became members of their group as well. But Zedrickas doesn't come into the story until way late, because he's off doing a lot of heroic things, trying to save as many people as possible before the alien invasion gets to his part of the galaxy. But the Rage and Geket's Naja, this representation of me in the Rage's time in Phantasy Star Universe, and there was this girl with the screen name of Baby Girl, and the Rage and Baby Girl, they would go off and play the game together all the time. So my reasoning for bringing Geket's Naja into the story was for the love of the Geket's Nada spear and Chris's relationship with Baby Girl. Crisis and Bazooka Flow, both Purge members, both very high clearance Purge members, and Crisis is the actual leader, the president of operations of Purge at the moment in the story. And Crisis and Bazooka Flow are also a couple of the characters that know every single character in the story. But their that relationship is very lovely. I love it. But I do want to talk about my character Crunch and his relationship Nexon. So, like in a couple of the relationships, one character may be a god, another character may not be. Like Quiver and Silver. Silver is the god in that relationship. Roughhead and Sir Sworn are gods in that triad, if I could talk right. And Zooms is a god. And Galtos and Shebeto are both god. So Nexon is a god, and he came to the real world when his parents migrated, and you know, he's always been like a good guy, and he just grew up being a good guy and eventually became a Galactic Force officer. And because he's a god and he had such a reputation of being a nice guy and a specific kind of protector of women, he was given a specific job to get on one of the top 5 or 7 captain positions of a space vessel that belongs to the Galactic Forces. And that spaceship, it has the sirens, and it's big enough to house 50 families worth of refugees or some other kind of information. It's probably bigger than that because it's one of the spaceships that can't go onto a planet because it's so big. But he's the captain of the entire vessel, and he is in charge of so many lives. And because of the sirens, this specific spaceship gets around the universe pretty fast. It's as fast as Crunch's spaceship, which is much smaller than that battleship, and as fast as how Omniverse can teleport an entire spaceship of any kind of size across the galaxies and whatnot. Omniverse is very busy, but Crunch and Nexon, they met after Andraco's situation, and Andraco's can't be with Crunch and all this other kind of information. Oh, so many storylines in this story that I've already developed is beautiful in my head. I can't wait to put this story out, and I really want to make it into an animated series. But Crunch and Nexon, that relationship is going to be very tricky because Crunch has a symbiote that used to be a human that evolved so far into his spill grid that he became a different species, but can still turn into his full human vessel from back in the day. And he's about 2 millennia old. Odin is old as hell, but he lives inside Crunch, and he be wilding because him and Crunch can constantly talk all the time. And Odin is it's hard to explain because Crunch is the host, and the only reason why he joined Crunch was because Crunch is as powerful as him in the age that he was at that time. And he just admired Crunch for what he did when he met him, which was go to the coldest place on the planet and meditate for hours while building up immense heat, even though his superpower is ice. And he was doing all this crazy meditation, and Odin was doing everything in his power to get his attention. But during the meditation, Crunch didn't budge, and he didn't want to get too close to him because, you know, he didn't want to get damaged, and symbiotes can be damaged. But he didn't want to get froze or anything, and he didn't know the full extent of Crunch's power. So he joined Crunch, and a lot of things happened, and he found out how powerful he was when he joined him. And he was like, what's that thing called? He was starstruck. It was stupid. But Nexon came in, and they had like this very fucked up paradise of a first 2-week relationship because it was some kind of epilogue where Crunch and Nexon finally met, and then they just went out to this paradise place, and Odin was like mad jealous. It was mad stupid, but I can't wait. There's so much animation to do with them. Good times. Then you have all of the villains, if I could talk right. I don't know where they came from, but when I was choosing the faces for these characters, I was like, wow, the internet is such a lovely place now. But the choosing behind them, some of them were very easy, cause I've some of the faces belong to a collection of like I'll come across faces all around the world and whatnot, and I say what I think I can use for one of my characters or for a specific character and whatnot. And I just went in there and I was just thinking about arch nemesis one day, and like it's so much stuff going on in my head all the time, it's ridiculous. And I found myself making up 5 of each of my ethnicity ranges, and like it was around that time when Monique was setting Bravo Street. Excuse me. Monique Samuels from Real Housewives of Potomac, and she is the face for Archie. And Archie is Omniverse's baby mother. Long story. You're gonna love it. But Khalees is the face behind Wink. Coco Jones is the face behind Volvisia. Bianca Santos is the face behind Tiffany Lozo. And Tiffany Lozo was a name that I made up for Closest to the Stars, which was a story I submitted to one of the writing contests and whatnot. And Tiffany Lozo, that name stuck with me, so I just decided to make it like one of the urban legends of the Tri-Stone era, and it's a name that floats around all of the universes. Like the sites have folklore in all of the universes. Even if they're not connected to that universe directly, there's some kind of book, or there will be something in an animated series that'll be like an Easter egg of the mentioning of sites. Like in Remix, their story is like the lowest in a power totem pole of my stories, so there's not a lot of superpowers in it, but it's still very high fiction. And they just them urban legends, it's a lot of them, but Tiffany Lozo was developed into one. So in this story, with her being named Tiffany Lozo, everybody is afraid of her that come across her. So the mentioning of her name brings fear to anybody, because she's this urban legend of deadly proportions, and she's Zoom's arch nemesis in the story. And it's not like Legend of Zelda exactly, because Zooms is like my version of Link to an extent. And because one of Davis's favorite series is The Legend of Zelda. And when I learned about that, I was like, wow. And Tiffany Lozo is his enemy, and her main quest in life is to find a weapon that can kill the original guys that are still alive in Edgemere. And she's a goddess too, so because everybody that's born there is a goddess or a god. Emilio Garcia Sanchez will be the face of Cravery. Diana Silvers will be the face for X Viper, which is Handsome X's arch nemesis, because their kingdoms are next to each other on their planet. And what's her name? Lily Galici is going to be the face behind Demily, which is a villain with Sword of the Universe as a superpower, and she is of course Quantum's arch nemesis. So the ending of the video will show the galaxies. The Edgemere dimension. Galaxy 1, the Milky Way. Galaxy 2, the Pegasus Array. Galaxy 3, the Double Sky. Galaxy 4, the Orange Star. Galaxy 5, the One Galaxy. Galaxy 6, Glithero. Galaxy 7, the Lucky Equals. Galaxy 8, the Fairest Sky. Galaxy 9, Rugen Het. Galaxy 10, the Black Heart. Galaxy 11, Sanine Quobi. Galaxy 12, the Sistrine. And Galaxy 13, the Holly North. That is all for this time. Hopefully you was able to follow everything. I know I went on them tangents and talking about different characters and things and the physics of the universe, but I think it was a good bit. Captain Griffin would be proud. But hope you like the world of Crimson Collective so far. The next video in line should be about chapter 1, but it's really to be determined. But there'll be more Crimson Collective footage eventually. Until then, take care and fuck it up. TPB out.